Hi, and welcome to the Little Nut Chronicles. This is a great little story about what we give realness to and the attachments we have. The story is known as The Weeds. Now, it's about this young lady who worked for a particular government organization in Australia, and she enjoyed her work, but she had a big dream, and the dream was to go travel the world on a 6-month sabbatical, and she was planning the sabbatical. But then she also became aware at work that there was a promotion going. She was a bit young for the promotion, so she didn't put in an application. But her boss called in and said, actually, I'd like you to apply. Just put it in handwriting and you'll most likely get the position. So she went home for the weekend and thought about this situation she was in, wanting to go on this dream trip, but also really wanting the promotion. So she sat down and thought about it, and that night when she went to sleep she had a dream. In the dream she stood on the edge of a lake. She took off all her clothes and dove naked into the lake, and she swam down and she lived there for a couple of weeks. You know, in dreams you can breathe underwater, you can do anything. While she was swimming down and enjoying the time underwater, she saw this village. This village was growing amongst the weeds growing underwater, and the villagers welcomed her. They were very friendly, and she spent some time with them. But then she noticed, as she spent time with them, that all of them had weeds, either wrapped around their legs, around their waists, even around their necks. But not only did they have the weeds wrapped around, but they also had the weeds growing into them, embedded in their flesh, around their arms, their necks, their waists, their thighs. So at the next village meeting, she decided to mention this. And when she mentioned about the weeds, the villagers all acted surprised and confused, and she realized that they couldn't see the weeds. Only she could see the weeds. So she sort of put it off as a kind of a joke. And she also noticed that the weeds were wrapping around her. So she detached herself, said goodbye to the villagers, and swam up and woke up. She thought about this dream over the weekend, and she sat down and wrote 3 letters. On Monday she saw a boss, and she handed him the first letter, an acceptance for the job, because they had a meeting over the weekend and she was indeed promoted. And then she handed him her application for her sabbatical, for her dream trip. And he said, no, we've done so much for you. You cannot do that to us right now. You cannot go on this trip. There's responsibilities, and you've accepted this promotion. She said, well, if that's your position, here's my 3rd letter. And the 3rd letter was her resignation. She was that committed. The boss looked at the resignation, looked at her, and then tore up her resignation. He said, well, if you're that committed to your trip, indeed, well, then you can go on it. And she took her trip. They kept the position open for her. And when she came back, she continued working at this work that she really enjoyed. Indeed, the weeds. We all have weeds. We do need them. You see, if you rip out the weeds, you may bleed. So the idea is not to rip them out, but to become aware of your weeds, your attachments, the things you give realness to. And you see, if you become aware of them, if you observe them, at some point you can detach those that do not serve you. Well, I hope you enjoyed the story. Thanks for stopping by.